Is this one? Yeah. Hello. You're getting. Got it. So I already said good morning, right? Why we say good morning? Why don't we say bad morning? Right? Because we all want to be good. We say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. And we say this repeatedly again and again. That means we all want to be good. So this itself is teaching, you know. If you know how to give the teaching, it is everywhere. The whole nature is an open book for inspiration, for teaching. Then similarly, look at our own name. All of us have a good name, right? Although I don't know, some of you may know the meaning of your name or not, but we all have a good name. Mary, Jesus, Tashi, you know, Ram, Sham, whatever, you know, good names. So that means we want to be good again. So once you have got this good name, when people call you by that name, you should know, okay, I'm that person with such a good name. So I should live my life befitting the name. These are all teachings, right? So to start with, we should develop a good motivation. We have gathered here not because you have no other work, not because I have no other work. Today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday. Normally our offices are closed. So Saturday and Sunday day I can go up and down and, you know, enjoy, you know. There's one way of spending life. And many of you, and most of you came from all the way from so many different places, spending a lot of money. One reason may be sightseeing, things like that. Another more important reason may be to do this spiritual journey, which is really, really important. Like here we have probably majority Israelis. Most of the time the Israelis are majority. Then we have our Indian friends, then from other countries. Oh, I visited Israel maybe 8 times. So I would like to say shalom. Yeah. Israelis are also very, very spiritual people, philosophical minded, ask a lot of questions. India also is a great country with such ancient, you know, teaching of all the religious traditions in India, including Buddhism. Then likewise, all the rest, they are also a spiritual being. One thing that I want to mention right in the beginning is it is not compulsory that you become a religious person, right? But you must become, I think, I don't know whether this word is right, but I think you should become a spiritual person. Now people are making some differentiation between spirituality and religion. Shall I tell you a little story? How the Western science came into being. Western science is relatively a new subject, studied maybe 200, 300 years back, strictly speaking. But before that, there was Western philosophy, not a separate subject called science. Right? In the philosophy, there is teaching on metaphysics also. Metaphysics means those that are beyond the physical experience. Talk about God. In Buddhism, we talk about afterlife. So many metaphysical subjects were there also. So then some thinkers, it looks like, I'm not an expert, okay? I'm just sharing what little I know. So then some thinkers probably said, yeah, you have right to ask these metaphysical questions, but that is not so relevant in our day-to-day life. I'm not saying it is wrong, but it's not so relevant in our day-to-day life. So let us talk about physical realities. So according to them, they kicked the word matter out, which left physics. That's how science came into being. Physics means physical realities. We talk about physical reality, something that we can calculate, something that we can measure. Let us first talk about that. I mean, that also makes sense. It's not objecting other people who believe in metaphysics, but they said, I have no objection, but let us concentrate more on the physical reality. So that is how science came into being, physics, the father or mother of all sciences. Then gradually from physics, the neuroscience, biology, other branches of physics came into being. But still, they talk about the physical realities. There's one trend, which I think is important to know. Another trend is we have religion, of course, different types of religion. Again, some of the thinkers, they said, in religion, we talk so much about, again, metaphysics, things that we can't see. So let us talk not of religion, but talk about spirituality. So now more people talk about spirituality than religion. Right? Then it was also in the system of the governance. In the past, most of the countries, they are primarily ruled by religious people. Right? Whether it is Buddhism or Christianity, if you look there, church is basically the ruler. Then again, some of these thinkers, they said, oh, you the church people, you are talking so much about metaphysics, things like that. I mean, it's your business. We are not saying that this is wrong. But for ruling our people and dealing with the day-to-day problems, let us have a separate organization that takes care of that. That is how the separation of state and church took place. If you're a student of political science, I know you know that very well. How state and church separated. State, the government doesn't talk about the metaphysical things. They talk about how to look after day-to-day affairs of the people. And when the church and state separated. The state basically should be, I mean, there are some countries who are theocratic, still religion is very much there, but generally speaking, the state is not run by one religion. It is not criticizing religion. It maintains an equidistance with all religion, but still they need rules and regulations for running the government, for ruling the people, for guiding the people. So then they started what they call as secular ethics. Ethical values which doesn't have to come from just one religion. A value system which is applicable to everyone, believer, non-believer, even those who are against religion. I don't know whether you're aware or not aware. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, since some years, is making a lot of effort to teaching this secular ethics. Because when His Holiness the Dalai Lama goes around the world, he goes with few reasons. One, I mean, we can all do that. Whether you are a follower of His Holiness the Dalai Lama or not, that's not important. But what is important is we can get that. Yes, I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine. We can follow this good example. So what His Holiness is saying is, above all, I'm a human being. Before he's a religious person, before he's a Tibetan, the most important thing is human being. Just as you are a human being, I'm a human being, and there's no discrimination. We are all human beings. He says this is the most important thing. So as a human being, we must take the responsibility of universal human values. As I said, universal human values means if it is universal, it can be from any religion. It can be from common sense. It can be from common experience. It can be based on scientific findings, right? But it has to be universal. His Holiness feels that this preservation and promotion of universal human values is not only important but urgent today, because human values are eroding everywhere and people are just running for material benefits. And because of this unchecked greed for material consumption, we are destroying the whole planet. And there is, of course, conflict, discrimination, exploitation, black marketing, corruption, bribery. So many bad things are happening in every country. So this cannot be solved and rectified just by government rules. It should be solved by awareness, by inculcating these values in each and every individual human beings throughout the world. So based on that, we have started many programs. Some people, I mean, in the beginning, when this Lord secular ethics came into being, then the people in the church, they found this as almost like confrontational. Secular ethics means against religion. There was, issues like that. So even if you don't want to use the word secular ethics, that's fine. So you can use another word like social, emotional, ethical learning to develop pro-social attitude, and then how to regulate your emotions, how to improve your ethics, things like that. So that's very important. So that is what I want to share right in the beginning. Of course, we are gradually studying this Buddhist text, which may not be so easy. I will try to make it easy. But when it comes to the explanation, I need to refer to the Tibetan text. Then I need to do almost like simultaneous translation. So I don't know how capable I am in doing that, but I'll try my best to do something. But what I'm really concerned, what I'm really trying to do is, number one, I would like to thank Tushita organization for organizing this, and thank all of you for participating in this. Not because you're listening to me. You listen to me or not listen to me, it doesn't make me an inch of difference. But I thank you because we are like-minded people willing to do something good. That is precious. That is precious for you individually. That is precious for all of us, because we need to make an impact in transforming the society with our individual participation. So that's why I respect you, value you very highly. So that's why I'm saying thank you. But the important thing is, whether I'm able to finish this text or not, that's not really important. But what's important is I'll try to explain some of these really profound, precious teachings. Okay? Then we will have question answers. You can bombard me with all kind of questions. Whatever questions you have to ask, please ask questions. Don't hesitate. It's your right. But whether I answer that or not, it's my right. Or whether I answer it honestly or crookedly, something like that. So what I'm really trying to say is, I don't want to waste my responsibility. I will try as much as possible not to waste your time. That's my responsibility. And you should also try to ask questions, not for the sake of just asking questions, but with a genuine wish to understand something. And together, our job will be to take something that will make a little bit, it's not easy to make an impact and bring about this transformation quickly. That's not easy, but not easy does not mean you cannot be, affected. Sometimes just one word stays in your mind and transforms your life. So therefore, to reach to this level, both of us have to work together. Okay, so to do that, first you should have, in the Buddhist way, normally we say when you listen to the teaching, you should not be like a pot turned upside down. Number one. If the pot is turned upside down, there's no way you can put anything in it. Meaning that you may be sitting here, but if you're really not listening properly, then you are like pot turned upside down. You'll get nothing. Second, you should not be like a leaky pot. Leaky pot means the pot is not turned upside down, it is in the right position, but there's a hole at the bottom. Then, if there is a hole in the bottom of the pot, then whatever is put inside the pot, it will go down, it will run down. So similarly, when I speak, when I say something, you listen from here and then send it from there, okay. Then there's like leaky pot, nothing will stay in your mind. Third is the listener should not be like a contaminated pot, unclean, dirty pot. Unclean, dirty pot means if the pot is, filled with dirt or unclean substances, then even if you put a very delicious food, it will be spoiled. So similarly, when you come to listen to the teaching, if you listen with the motivation, thinking that, oh, now I will listen to this Geshe Lhakdor or whoever, I'll read this text so that I become famous, I teach, I talk about meditation, this, then probably I may be able to earn some money. I'm not saying you can't do this, but that's the wrong motivation. The wrong motivation in the sense, because if you look at the purpose of Buddha's teaching, the purpose of Buddha's teaching is to benefit all sentient beings. Because the truth, the bitter truth is, there is not a single sentient being, human beings included, who does not have suffering. Not a single person who does not have suffering. Meaning, we have either obvious sufferings, headache, stomachache, things like that, backache, things like that. Or maybe we may not have those obvious symptoms, but you have more subtle suffering, which you unfortunately don't even know right now. There are fleeting pleasures, fleeting happinesses, which you thought is happiness, and you run after them. Gradually, it will change into suffering. Like this sitting here. The morning is fresh, you're already mentally, so it's okay. And mentally, at least you're ready for 2 hours, right? But if I keep on talking, saying that, oh, Dharma teaching is so precious, it's difficult to get Dharma teaching, so let us skip the lunch, And if I keep on talking for another 5, 6 hours, that initial sense of relaxation and peace when you came into this hall will gradually change. And you will start suffering. Oh my God, what this Geshe, what is talking endlessly. Then you will, live like this, and then you'll get up and go. So it's like that in human relations. When we marry somebody, we feel so happy. We buy a new house, so happy. Gradually changes into problem. You see. So that is not to say that you don't have these things, but you need to recognize that these are not the long-lasting source of peace and happiness. And once you understand that, then you will not, seek permanent happiness or long-lasting happiness in a misplaced direction. If the gold is available on this mountain, we should go here and excavate it, not there. Right? So therefore, true to the spirit of the Buddhist teaching, develop a motivation, making that by listening to this teaching, may all sentient beings, when I say sentient beings, all sentient beings, including even the tiniest insects, birds, they all want happiness. Why the birds are flying up and down? Why the insects are moving and crawling? In search of peace and happiness. As a Tibetan master said, the legless earthworm is moving in search of happiness. The eyeless ant is running in search of happiness. In short, the whole world is running in search of happiness. Especially, this is very obvious today. Human beings are like rushing like anything, right? Walking on the 2 feet is too slow. Then we had cycles. Then we had motorcycles. Then we had buses. Then we had trains. Then we had aeroplanes. Now the aeroplane which we have right now is also too slow. At one time they tried to bring this quick flyer called Concorde. I saw that plane also. So, but it had an accident and then somehow it did not take place. So anyway, the point is, I'm not saying don't make any progress. Okay, I'm not trying to turn the clock. But what I'm saying is, why are we so rushed? What are you trying to achieve? Or in other words, with the speed of science and technology, what have we achieved? Yes, we have achieved many things. The light you are using, the microphone you are using, many good things, but also many other bad things. There's a Tibetan saying which says your 2 feet is very swift, very, very quick, but you're not reaching at the place where you should reach. Something like this. So I'm not against any of this modern advancement technology. They may be important and needed. But the most important thing is we need to on and off, we need to stop, pause, and say, who am I? What is it that I really want? What is that is really unique to human beings as opposed to animals, birds, things like that. So what is my potential? So that I think is very, very important because human beings also live like animals. And unfortunately, sometimes worse than animals. Animals like tigers, lions, and snakes, they may be fearful and frightening. But the most they can do is bounce off on each other and kill each other. There's, I think, no history of snakes or tigers polluting the whole environment of the world, polluting the air, water, or initiating a world war. Who initiated world wars? Human beings. Just by that, I'm not saying human beings are bad. Okay? What I'm saying is human beings have a very special intelligence. In Buddhism, we call this human life, precious human life. In other religions like Christianity, also human beings are called as crown of creation, right? Human beings are highly placed. This is not because we have special physical agility. We can't compete monkey, okay, jumping from tree to tree, or we can't compete fish. Although we highly, praise the gold medal, the world gold medalist because he is the number one swimmer, but they can't compete fish. I mean, this is, I'm not, again, I'm not against it. I'm not saying this because I can't swim. When my swimming is equal to nothing almost, I can just do a little bit like this. But what I'm saying is, I'm not against all of this. But what I'm saying is, these are not areas where human beings should excel, given their unique potential. So our unique potential is this human intelligence, the capacity to judge between what is right and what is wrong, what is good for you and what is good for everybody, what is good today and what is good in the long run. Now, this intelligence, this human intelligence, in Buddhism we call it Buddha nature, meaning that we all have, in this case, not only human beings, and all sentient beings have Buddha nature, but especially with human beings. So this human intelligence itself is not necessarily positive. I mean, it's a good thing, but not necessarily positive or negative. But whether this intelligence becomes constructive and destructive depends upon how you use it. It's like nuclear energy. Nuclear energy itself is, I think, neither positive nor negative. If you use it for producing electricity and many other good things, it's good. If you use it for making a nuclear bomb to throw on the head of millions, of course, it's awful. So similarly, this human intelligence, when this same human intelligence, when it is nurtured and cultivated and used in the right way, then we have people like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. We have Mahatma Gandhi. We have Nelson Mandela. We have so many in every country. There may be many people who may not be so well known, but may be extremely wonderful. There may be people everywhere. Because they have used this human intelligence in the right way. And when you use this human intelligence in the right way, even one person can bring so much happiness and peace in the mind of so many people, just as these great people have done and doing. So we all have this potential. Now, if you use it the wrong way, the same human intelligence, when you use it the wrong way, it becomes awfully destructive, just like the way Mao Zedong did, just like the way Hitler did, just like the way Stalin did, just like the way, Idi Amin did. So many, long list. I even have the list of all these people and how many people died during their tenure. I have the list. One person can bring so much unhappiness. During Mao Zedong's rule in China, 75 million people lost their life. I did not say killed, okay? Lost their life, directly being killed or because of other causes. So there are so many. Still, there are people who are doing this, so-called leaders doing this. Some of you who have attended my talk on 15th, I mentioned, in Buddhism we say, you don't have to kill people, they will die. There's wisdom. I mean, can you believe, in the name of this unseen force called God or Buddha, or whatever, in that name, you're pretending you're believing that force, that energy which you are not seeing right now. In that name, you are killing a person which you are seeing right now, which is sitting in front of you. You're killing it. It's just ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense, right? Speaking from spiritual practice in Buddhism, the Buddha calls all sentient beings as mother. And believers of the God, they say God created everybody. So we are all creation of the God. So if you strictly practice the genuine religious teaching, there's not much room for violence and mistreatment. But people misinterpret it for their own political purposes, individual gain. Then bring so much problem, you see. So therefore, uh, as I was saying, listen to this teaching with proper attention, unlike the pot upside down, unlike the leaky pot, unlike the faulty pot with defilements inside. And listen to this with a wish to transform yourself, become a happy person, good person. Yesterday, I think yesterday, by 16, yesterday, His Holiness was saying that yesterday or anywhere, somewhere, His Holiness said that you should be a happy person. And you should be a person who is always smiling. You see, smiling, happy. There are many reasons to smile. There are many reasons to be happy. I'm not saying you have no problem. Even if you have problem, but comparatively, you have many other reasons to be cheerful, to be happy. And when you are mentally happy and peaceful, you can do many things. Whether it's your job, whether it's your spiritual practice, whether it's taking care of your family, whatever, you can do it easily. When your mind is disturbed, you can't do anything. That's why in Buddhism we talk about the need to have concentration, meditation, mindfulness, awareness, conscientiousness, and things like that. Okay, so listen with this motivation and with a happy mind. Okay. So I'll explain a little bit about these two great persons who had done this dialogue in this text. The name of the first person is Atisha. Atisha, or sometimes we call it Choji. He was born in India, Eastern India, Bengal. In those days, Tibetans used to call it Sahor. The name was Sahor. He was a prince, and until he was 21 years old, he remained in the palace. And while remaining in the palace, he studied many, Buddhist and non-Buddhist subjects. And then he approached many great masters at that time. Many teachers in those times were not just teachers like me, just giving talk. They were really internally very, very highly realized masters. Because in those days, there were not many distractions. People were only talking about spiritual practice. So there were many who had reached that high level of spiritual development. So he had great teachers like Avadutipa, Dharmarakshita. Dharmarakshita was somebody who has the capacity to cut a piece of his body and give it to offering to others, things like that. There are many great teachers. Shantipa, Narupa, so many, Rahula, Avadutipa, the senior and junior, so many teachers. And then when he reached 29 years old, then at the place called Otantapuri, there was a great master called Shila Rakshita. So under him, he got ordained, become a monk. Then the name he got was Dibamkar Shirijana. Dibamkar Shirijana. And there he studied Buddhist philosophy for 3 years. not only Buddhist philosophy, but other philosophical traditions also. And he said in 3 years he became a great scholar. Then the female deity Tara made a prophecy to him to go and see this great master in Indonesia. At that time, the Indonesia was known as the Swan Dipa, the Golden Island. Then he went there, you know. I'm saying he went there, so easy, you know. But when he actually traveled, imagine the boat that he has at that time, maybe a small boat, 13 months journey in the sea to reach Indonesia from India. And there are many accounts of almost the boat capsized, and with his prayer, meditation, he was able to reach there. So he went there, this great master who is called Selingba, that means great master of this Golden Island. And he stayed there and studied with him for 12 years. And he studied all the stages of the path, the vast, extensive practices, and he was able to develop uncontrived, meaning genuine bodhicitta. Are you familiar with this word bodhicitta? How many of you are? Okay, and I will explain. So bodhicitta, this is a Sanskrit word. Bodhi means enlightenment. Chit means mind. Mind to enlightenment. Mind to enlightenment means wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Well, look at the definition. Wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. We are not saying wish to become Bill Gates to help all sentient beings. Wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, meaning wish to become completely enlightened to help other sentient beings. This is very important because by this, what we are saying is, if you really want to help sentient beings, you need to teach them. You need to show them the path. Gift of material things may be useful, but for some time, not for a long time. And then, even in terms of giving spiritual teaching, if you are not completely enlightened, you can help them, but not much, really. Because if you are completely enlightened, if you are Buddha, then you can read the mind of everybody. What are you thinking right now? What is your mental propensity? What will you become in the next 5 years, 10 years? What kind of positive, negative imprints you have in your mind that came from many past lives? So what is your mental disposition or interest? What is relevant now? That's why when he give the teaching, he give two types of teaching: interpretative teaching and definitive teaching. Interpretative teaching means there are a number of teachings by Buddha which has to be interpreted later on, which you cannot accept as it is. But he gives such a teaching because people will not be able to digest the definitive teaching, the ultimate teaching. So you need to, just like teaching ABCD to kindergarten going students. Although the objective may be to make them PhD students, but you cannot teach the PhD subjects right now. So you teach ABCD, right? So like that, interpretative teachings, definitive teachings, depending upon the need and disposition of the people, right? So therefore, the best way to help others is by getting oneself educated. Not only in Buddhism, whatever subject you want to teach, you should really be well versed in that subject. Then only you can show them the path, right? So for a moment, forget about complete enlightenment. If you are really expert in computer technology, software or hardware, whatever it is, if you are really like the master in that, then you can easily teach others and help them earn their livelihood and things like that, right? So this is just a small example, but these are temporary ways of helping. The long-term ways of helping is to make these sentient beings themselves become Buddha. And what is it that obstructs us to reach that level? Negative emotions, anger, jealousy, hatred, all these things. Right? We'll speak more about this later on. So therefore, what I was saying was he with this master, Lama Selingwa, he remained there and studied at his feet for 12 years and he cultivated genuine bodhicitta. Cultivated genuine bodhicitta means even now we can also say and aspire, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. That's good. That's an aspiration. But that does not mean to say we have cultivated genuine bodhicitta. Genuine bodhicitta means this mind wishing to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings comes to your mind naturally without having to make an effort. So similarly, in the case of, for example, compassion. What is compassion? The wish to remove sufferings of all sentient beings. Oh, wonderful. I want to cultivate it. Right? But the next time you meet a person who troubles you, who brings problem, then forget compassion, it's too nasty, Like for a Tibetan might say, oh, the Chinese leaders are like, I can't count them as sentient beings. That happens. So it's not easy, but not easy does not mean you can't have it. Right? So gradually, when you see the bigger picture, why compassion is important, why bodhicitta is important towards all sentient beings, then you will be able to gradually, develop a mind where you don't make any discrimination, where you are able to see all of them as your mothers, as your fathers, as your brothers, as your sisters, in many of these lives which you've experienced. Right? And then it will come to you automatically. For example, look at the mother, treatment of mother to her child. Especially take the example of a mother. Let us say there's a mother who has only one daughter, little daughter, cute daughter, charming, beautiful, cute. Some of these small kids, they're so charming, so innocent, so pure. So this mother, let us say, has one child, very small, very cute. The mother does everything to protect her. The mother will even sacrifice her life. Am I right? Mm-hmm. How this is possible? This shows everything is possible. If you have habit, if you have a training, it is possible. There is an account of great masters who just cut their flesh and give it to, but happily. Unbelievable to us right now. But the teaching says yes. It's only your grasping obsession with yourself. You're not able to come out and do many of these good things. But when you remove this grasping and obsession, you will see this body just like a piece of vegetable. There's nothing wrong chopping the vegetables. Easier said than done. You see some of these science, interesting topics, and then they say, oh, don't practice it in your home, So I'm not saying you, practice it or anything like that, but I'm saying it is possible. It is possible. I have given you this example of mother. When you have this love, in the mother's case, it's not pure unconditional love, little bit attachment, but still very good love. Because of this love, she is able to see her child beautiful, perfect, and is ready to sacrifice her life. So similarly, in an extended way, we should be able to develop Something like that kind of attitude when we see everybody. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as we say. It's not how that person is really like the skin is black or white and nose is upside or down or what. That's not the question. The question is when you have this love, you see everything beautiful. The people look beautiful. The house looks beautiful. The rain looks beautiful. Everything looks beautiful. When you have negative tendency, everything is horrible. The people are horrible. Weather horrible. Food horrible. So you see some people keep complaining all the time. And what do you get? More suffering. So much is dependent. One Tibetan master said there is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. Similarly, there's nobody who will catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Your happiness, your suffering is in your hand. Do not cheat yourself, right? So, therefore, Atisha cultivated this genuine Bodhichita. He had something like 150 masters, out of which he was always paying more respect to this teacher from Indonesia, because it was from this master he was able to cultivate this very precious bodhicitta. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I hope you have attended some of his teachings. He's always saying bodhicitta, bodhicitta, emptiness, bodhicitta, emptiness, bodhicitta. You see, and sometimes tears come down in his eyes when he talks about bodhicitta, because yes, and when he talks about the wish to benefit all sentient beings, he is able to clearly see the sufferings of all sentient beings. Rich people are fighting in competition and jealousy. Poor people are struggling to get even their day-to-day food, you see. And worse than that, many other sentient beings in a very helpless situation, right? And then we are randomly destroying the forest, destroying the environment, killing so many other animals, things like that. So Atisha, it is said, he developed this genuine bodhicitta. And then after that, after staying there for 12 years, he came back to India and he became the topmost scholar in the Vikramshil University, very famous university. In India had many famous Buddhist universities, Vikramshil, Shishila, Nalanda, some of the biggest universities in the world at that time. So he remained there. And then the Tibetan king at that time, the Tibetan king was basically from my locality, the Western Tibet. There was a Lama, who was also king by the name Geshe. So he saw the corruption of Buddhism at that time. Some Indian teachers were coming and other Tibetan teachers, they were like misusing the religion, so for so many personal gains and things like that. So he saw this corruption and he was very unhappy. And he said, I must invite some of the best teachers in India and rectify these bad systems. So in order to invite him, he first sent a group of people. When he sent a group of people traveling from Tibet to India in those days, traveling means traveling on foot. Then Tibet, very cold climate, India, very hot climate, So many of these people died on the road, in the forest. I'm not telling this story, but how much the Tibetan translators, kings worked hard in order to get Buddhism, that's a huge story there. Many students who were on their way to study, they lost their life. They couldn't make it. Right? And then he himself, the king himself, wanted to go. And on the way, he was caught by some other who was against Buddhism. He was imprisoned. And then he, to this person who, Khalok, we call it, who imprisoned him, he said, if you bring gold equal to the size of your body, equal to the weight of your body, then I'll release you. So his nephew, Changchu, went around in search of gold. In Tibet, in those days, there were a lot of gold. I remember as a child, I escaped from Tibet when I was very young. So my father used to tell me that many places there were like golds everywhere. But Tibetans hardly used that because we believed that the natural resources are not something belonging to human beings alone. There are other spirits also forming there. There's a really perfect harmony. And that now, because of this unused natural resources, including uranium, gold everywhere, that's one reason the Chinese Communist government invaded Tibet and started excavating everything now. And because of this, now flood and everything is coming to India. I'm not making it up, but this is an aside, but I'm telling you the truth. So his nephew Changchu, when he was able to collect that amount of gold, then he went to his uncle, said, I've collected this much gold. He said, no, don't give this person who imprisoned me just even one coin of gold. You use this gold to invite Atisha to Tibet. I'm happy to die in the prison. So he sacrificed and died in the prison. Then his nephew, Changchu, then he sent some young, smart Tibetans like Nakso Nusawa and others to invite. There's again a whole story, whole book. And then finally they were able to invite Atisha. When these Tibetans approached Atisha, offered the gold, first they got a scolding from Atisha by saying, I am not the teacher who look for gold. You see, in those days, again, as I said, there were many teachers. Some came to Tibet just looking for gold. Then there are teachers like Atisha who said, I'm not a teacher looking for gold. Then the Tibetans went to invite him. They were so sad. They cried, wept, and told the situation in Tibet. Then gradually he agreed and went to Tibet and remained in Tibet for 17 years, Atisha. And in the beginning, when he was going there, his abbot and others were like very reluctant to send him. He was already top scholar. Okay. And then when he was in Tibet, then he wrote this text called The Lamb of the Path to Enlightenment. Bodhipat Pardipam. Lamb of the Path to Enlightenment. And he composed this text and sent it back to his teacher or somebody in India. The teacher said, now I'm happy. Because you went to Tibet, you composed these texts. If you had remained in India, you may not have composed these texts. So anyway, Atisha was a great scholar who composed many, many other beautiful texts. I myself read many of these texts. So we are lucky to have this great master read these texts of discussion between this great master and his disciple, Brahma. Okay, so that's a short story of Atisha. Then I tell you a little bit the story of this Tumtama. Now this is very interesting. I read a little bit of this conversation and some other teachings. The unique thing with Tumtama was he chose to remain as a lay person, never got ordained. Although he's said to be the emanation of Avalokiteshvara. And his Holiness Dalai Lama is believed to be reincarnation of Avalokiteshvara, thereby in Tumtama also. Now, interesting this, very inspiring with this thing for all of us, the lay people, is that although he is somebody who is highly spiritually already elevated, but he chose to remain as a lay person. And for many years, he had a teacher. First one teacher, then another teacher. He studied with them while looking after sheep and goat and things like that. He was a herdsman. wearing the lineage clothes. When he was 41 years old, then he heard this great fame of Atisha, and he's having visited Tibet. Then he went to receive teachings from Atisha. And before Dhomtamba reached there, Atisha, through his clairvoyance, already knew. He was actually told by his protectress, Tara, that your foremost student is coming. So they know all this much in advance. Anyway, so he went there, and then he stayed with Atisha, studied with him for 18 years, and following Atisha like body and shadow everywhere. Okay. Then finally, when Atisha was passing away, he appointed him as his regent or representative. Gave all the teachings and said, you know everything what he taught, and you made representative, things like that. And then finally, Dhomtamba built this famous monastery called Reading Monastery. Reading Monastery. We call it the learning center of the Kadamba masters. He established that. And His Holiness told many times that when he was relatively young and visited Reading Monastery, probably because of this past lives karmic connection, without any reason, he just could not stop himself crying. His Holiness divine, because of this relation, past life relation. It happens with all of us, Don't see this as something, ludicrous or senseless, because we all have this. Sometimes even when we go into the market, sometimes we see some people maybe meeting for the first time, but we feel like talking to them. Similarly, you see another person which you feel a little bit like, oh, I have to be careful with this person. You see. So this is because of our karmic formation and habit in the past. So this Reading Monastery is a very, very precious monastery. Okay. So I will say just a few words before I actually start the text. In one of his discourse, there's a text called Entering into the True Truth. Entering into the True Truth, Atisha says, just like Shantideva, almost similar. Life is short. There are too many things to know. We do not know the actual span of our life. Therefore, take what is really necessary, just like the swans extract milk from water. This is again a mind-blasting teaching for me. This is there in the very beginning of Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avtara, and it's here in this text also. And this is particularly relevant in today's world. Life is short, of course, it's short. Right? Maximum 100 years, but there's no guarantee that we live 100 years. And out of this 100 years, individually speaking, depending upon your age level, we've already finished many years. So even if you presume that you live 100 years, you may be like another 50 years, 40 years. For me, another 30 years. If I live 100 years, I'm around 70 or something. Right? This is not to scare yourself. This is to help you seize the opportunity before it slips from your hand. Things have been slipping from our hand until now. Because we are just pulled into all directions. We are going just by the way other people are going, and then we spend our time, ego, and all this. Right? This is how we spend our life. I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy. You should enjoy, please enjoy, be happy. I also try to remain very happy. I'm very fond of enjoying things like that. But that doesn't mean don't waste your life. There is a Tibetan teacher who told his student, Are you studying? Are you meditating? He said, yes, sir. The master said, don't tell lie. Because I saw you sleeping the whole night, which you all do. Then in the day, you remain distracted. Distracted means distracted. Distracted because of going to the toilet, going for food, so many other things. We get distracted. So because of this, when do you get time to do practice? That's what he said. Right? So after attending this talk teaching, you should make it a point. I'm sure you're already doing, I'm just encouraging for those people who are not doing. I'm not saying you're not doing. Many of you may be much better than me, for sure. But at least spend some time meditation. Study, practice, transform your mind, attitude, also your attitude. That's very, very important. So this was life is short. We do not know the span of our life. Not only short, but we don't know when we are going to die. Today is case. Tomorrow is yet to come. Nobody knows. Tibetan teachers, they say tomorrow and next life. Which will come first, we don't know. Tomorrow and next life. Okay. Next life is when you breathe out, could not breathe in. That's next life. You don't even have to buy an air ticket or things like that. Breathe out and breathe, could not breathe in. That's next life. So tomorrow and next life, which will come first, we have no idea. We don't know. So therefore, don't waste time today. Especially at this particular time when there are so many distractions. Distractions produced by science and technology. You go to a big shop, mall, it's mesmerizing. You will be completely carried away. It's almost like a heaven. Now we may not regard it as heaven, but imagine, if all these are there like 200, 300 years before, then it's almost like heaven. So many amazing technological design products. So what I'm saying is, so many attracting things are there, which you will be easily attracted. You are bombarded with information without you're having to pay any attention. It just flood. It just comes into your mobile phone, into your television. In every media, it comes there. In ancient times, there was dearth of information. You see, so the little bit of information people get is the teaching that they receive in the classroom by the teacher, and the teacher shares this little bit of information, and then they say memorize it. That's why we memorize it, everything. You see. Now it's almost like outdated to memorize many of these things. I'm not saying everything, but now nobody is able to stop the flow of this information. You're bombarded by this information, but not all the information are necessarily good. Much of the information is junk information or to you irrelevant information. So why the hell you have to look after all this information? The problem is the problem is we all think, oh, I should be updated, I should be somebody who is able to say everything about everything, If that is not there, then maybe you will be ostracized. Society से बाहर निकल देगा. But believe me, Much of the information is junk information. Don't waste your time on this. You should know the right source of information, what kind of information you want, particularly the relevant ones, the useful ones. Then you get a lot of time for your meditation, for your practice, and so many other things. And more than information, what we need is knowledge, not just information, but knowledge. More than the knowledge is wisdom that we need. There's somebody very appealing said that information is like reading all the books about how to build a ship. But that doesn't mean that you're able to build the ship. You have all the information, you can talk about it, but you don't know how to build a ship. Then with knowledge, you will be able to build a ship. Big progress. But still, until and unless you have the wisdom, it's not sure whether that knowledge is useful or not. Because now the key point is, how are you going to use your ship? To carry missiles, to kill people, or to ferry people across, across the river or ocean, help them. So it is the most important thing is the wisdom that is able to see whether it's constructive, destructive, beneficial, not beneficial. We need not just information, not just knowledge, but we need wisdom. And wisdom comes through the threefold process of listening, thinking, and meditation. First, you have to listen. Listen means listen to the teacher and also reading books. Then after that, it's not enough. Most of us just read books and say, I read it. No, that's not enough. Now you need to think by yourself, contemplate how much that teaching makes sense. Right? Through that, you should be able to develop the conviction, the truth, and the correctness of the teaching. Once you are definite about the usefulness and correctness of the teaching, then meditation. Then make it part of your life. You just don't talk about water, but you drink water. It's only by drinking water you will be able to quench your thirst, not just talking about it. Not just getting a PhD on water. Even if you got a PhD on water, but if you don't drink it, you will die. Right? So therefore, wisdom. So all these teachings are primarily for wisdom. And this is, I think, very, very important. And then another piece of information, advice that he gives. 3 times a day and 3 times a night, repeatedly analyze your mind. What am I thinking? What am I doing? 3 times in the day, 3 times a night. Not necessarily exactly 3 times a day, 3 times a night, but as much as possible. Just as for the body, we need to eat 3-4 times. Breakfast you already had. Lunch is coming soon. Then there will be tea breaks. Then finally there will be dinner. At least 4-5 times we eat, right? And in between, you may have brought your own piece of chocolate or eat cake and many other things. So for body, we eat so many times. But for the mind, we hardly do anything. Much of the problem that we are facing in the world today is a clear indication of starvation of human mind. Starvation of human mind. So therefore, you need to give sustenance, nourish the mind. That's why he's saying 3 times in the day, 3 times in the night. Examine your mind 3 times a day, 3 times a night, and announce the good qualities of other people. Talk about the good qualities of other people, and hide your own qualities. You see, the problem is normally we highlight our own qualities, how good I am, how big I am, how clever I am, how intelligent I am. But we keep on highlighting the faults of other people. But in practice, you should do this the other way around. Highlight talk about the good qualities of others and hide your own qualities. People will know it, don't worry about it. If you have real inner quality, it will be expressed in one way or the other, physically, verbally, and people will know it, don't worry about it. No need to announce it. That's what he's saying. And then give up hatred, uneasiness of mind. And wherever you feel happy and comfortable, go there. He says, wherever you feel happy and comfortable, you go there. And especially go to those places where you get spiritual masters, spiritual teachers. In Hindi, we call it Kalyan Mitra. So seek spiritual friends. And then whatever you start, ensure that you are able to complete it. Don't start too many projects. That's what he's saying. If you start one, before you start a project, think carefully, plan carefully whether you will be able to do it or not. If you think you will not be able to do it, don't start it. If you start one, make sure you are able to complete it. Otherwise, in life, you will not achieve anything. So there are so many, advices like this. And then finally he says, when you are among many people, watch your mouth. When you are among many people, watch your mouth. When you are alone, watch your mind. So they are like gems of teachings, full of teachings. I'm just reading just one or two here this morning. So let us just start reading in the Indian language. So I'm reading this root text which you all have. In the Indian language, Bodhisattva Manavali. In the Tibetan language, Chandu. In English language, Bodhisattva was Garland of jewels. Garland of jewels. Just as when you put a garland of jewels, it looks nice, right? But still, that garland of gold or gems or whatever, it can be lost. It can be stolen. It may be very expensive to buy it. So anything that is material, however good it is a very limited quality. Whereas if you put on this invisible garland of gems of these precious teachings, no thieves will steal it, no robbers will rob it. And when you travel, it will never become excess baggage. Right? With the material accumulations, you have to carry too much. Oh, I have to take this, I have to take that. So many things you take. Then at the airport, they say, Madam, sorry, excess baggage, you have to pay for it. Buddha spoke about this a long time back. He said, when you came into the world, you brought nothing. When you go, you are going to get nothing. Don't accumulate too much in between. He has been saying this all the time. People didn't listen. Now, at the airport, they're telling you, listen to the Buddha's teaching, okay? Otherwise, you have to pay. I mean, there's so many amazing teachings which is now practically, scientifically proving into this life that yes, what the Buddha said was true. So when you have this inner qualities like loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, faith, integrity, strength, so many of these inner resources. Let us make a comparison about these inner resources and external resources. Every country on this globe is talking about GDP growth, right? Gross domestic product or whatever, GDP. Every country is hoping to increase their GDP. So that means every country is talking about increasing their money basically. natural resources. Natural resources that we are talking about developing comes from external natural resources, forest, minerals, things like that. External natural resources are material, physical resources, right? Anything that is physical, material, by definition, are limited, has limitation. So you cannot make unlimited progress from limited resources. So because of this, in the name of progress, today we are destroying the whole environment, natural resources, polluting water, polluting air, deforestation, Contrary to that, in the case of internal mental resources, it is limitless. You can develop as much as you want. The government will not force you not to develop ambition, not to develop loving kindness. It's your domain. You can develop as much as possible. And it is at the end of the day when you really encounter a problem like the pandemics, which we have seen clearly, at that time, the only thing that will primarily help you is this inner strength. During the pandemic, many people died, partly because of the pandemic, partly because of fear, sadness, loneliness, lack of mental resources. Now, I'm not just saying it is scientifically proved that how much your mind makes impact on your health. As I said, as I indicated already, your body is made of 4 elements. These 5 elements are controlled by the mind. For example, when you get angry, when your mind is not controlled, you get angry, you're increasing heat, right? Similarly, you're increasing your wind. So your mind is really the key to your physical and mental well-being. Therefore, we are talking about this. Okay? So there's the title. Bodhisattva Garland of Zen. So we'll read this text together, and you wear this garland. You wear this garland. Homage to the great compassion. It's not paying homage to Buddha, not paying homage to any other teacher, but rather paying homage to great compassion. Because the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas came into being due to compassion. Compassion is the seed. In the beginning, compassion is important. In the middle, compassion is important. Finally, even when one is completely enlightened, become a Buddha, compassion is important. So compassion is like a seed in the beginning. And then in middle, it is like the water and the fertilizers and things like that. And then finally, it is really like the crop. So in the beginning, in the middle, in the end, compassion is important. Compassion means, as I mentioned, compassion means how nice if I'm able to help all sentient beings. I mean, look at this. How nice if I'm able to remove the sufferings of all sentient beings. Now, in order to say that, you need to know your suffering. You need to know the sufferings of others. Sufferings are suffering. Just as you want to remove your suffering, you should also consider helping removing suffering of others, because that is suffering. Suffering, the English word maybe not a correct translation, but unwholesomeness, something that is not good, something that makes you uneasy, that should be removed. Therefore, the Buddha, in one of his sutras, he said, if you have one practice or one quality in the palm of your hand, you have all the practices in the palm of your hand. And what is that one practice? Compassion. When if you develop one quality like compassion, then you are already a very special person. Because if you really have this mind wishing that I remove suffering for all sentient beings, if you really have that mind, then how can you exploit others? How can you cheat others? How can you bully others? How can you harm others? All this will automatically stop. It's just like a magic wand, by which many of these bad things will automatically cease. So therefore he pays homage to great compassion. Pay homage to great compassion. The Tibetan word for homage is salva. Salva, which is a combination of two words, chal and salva. When we use the English word homage, means like bowing down or things like that. When you use the Tibetan word chal salva, which is a combination of two words, chal salva. Chal means to clean, to sweep. The reason you pay homage is to remove your arrogance. So pay homage means, one, you pay homage with the wish to remove all the dirts and impurities of negative emotions in yourself. Second is to seek all the physical, mental, verbal great qualities of the enlightened beings. So purpose of paying homage is to remove your negative emotions and to get all the higher qualities. In order to do that, you need to go down. You need to practice humility. If you're arrogant, you can't receive higher qualities. Just as you can yourself see whether the beautiful green grasses and flowers, they grow more down in the valley or more on the exposed top of a mountain. If you become arrogant and act like the exposed top of a mountain, flowers will grow very less. Green plants will not grow there, even if there's very less. They all grow down in the valley. That means, like the valley, if you remain humble, become receptive, you can get very good advices even from the mouth of an innocent child. As I already said, the whole law of nature is an open book. You can receive it. If you have this receptivity, sensitivity, humility, and readiness to receive, everything that appears to you is a teacher and guru. But if you become arrogant, there's no room. Then you say, oh, I know this. Yeah, I know this. Yeah, I know this. What do you know? This is the problem. We always say, oh, I know this. Yeah, I know this. Now, today, the Western science and philosophy, the great thinker, scientists and philosophers, they also say, one who says, I know, when you say, I don't know, it means you're at least moving towards knowledge. So, this is the purpose of paying homage. And it's really important for a spiritual practitioner to be humble to everybody. Don't think that I'm PhD, I'm a professor, I'm very special. It's good, but others also have many good qualities. You see, when you talk about Buddhist practice, how can you develop compassion? You develop compassion with respect to all other sentient beings. Therefore, they are kind, they are grateful. You develop patience with respect to other sentient beings. You don't develop patience to yourself. You don't develop compassion to yourself. You're able to develop all these great qualities in relation to other sentient beings. Therefore, they are great. Now here you might say, so what? I got the benefit that, but they didn't have the motivation to benefit me. In that case, why you respect dollars or money? You respect dollars and money, other things, because you get the benefit, not because the dollar or the money or the car has a motivation to benefit you. So it is not so much about whether the other person has motivation or not, but it's because you're getting the benefit. You should go and pay respect. Right? So in terms of quality, Buddha is very important. But in terms of having received the benefit, sentient beings are great. So in that sense, both Buddha and sentient beings are equal. Right? So therefore, paying homage. Okay, now some questions. Any questions? Mm-hmm. Mm.
We said that master.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen this. We talk about Tushita
Yeah.
to Western mindset.
Yeah.
Not like so, but we try not to relate to trauma.
Yeah.
And so would they follow that mindset?
Yeah. So this we'll discuss later on when we read this next line, which says, "I pay homage to the lamas." Anyway, I'll explain this. No problem. So the next line is homage to the lamas. So by reading this, I'll explain. The Tibetan word lama means somebody who is superior, supreme. People who don't know, they say all the monks lamas. No, all the monks are not lamas. Normally, Tibetans call those so-called reincarnated beings as lamas. Number one. Number two, people who may not be the reincarnated ones, reincarnations, but who, through their lifelong study and practice and kindness, people naturally go to that person, seek advice, seek blessing. They people offer him lama, right? So that's why they are supreme or superior. That's the meaning. But those who are so-called reincarnations are not necessarily great lamas. Okay, telling you. His Holiness also said this. Because many of you should know everything properly. Don't just follow everything with blind faith. There's so many so-called reincarnations in the Tibetan society. And some of them, unfortunately, not even having much knowledge of Allah. So these are like social status. People get recognized just as we play politics everywhere. So people also get